All right, so I was saying, let me just get your response and your take on the conversation that I had with the two learners in the previous hour here on the show. What do you make of the discussion? The one who had access to online learning and the other one who didn't?
That is the unfortunate reality, Palisa, that although online learning is probably the most ideal approach during the COVID session, but it is an approach that is for the privileged. Those who have access to resources, they can access their education, their learning can continue. Teaching and learning is ideal for them. But we know that we live in a country with huge inequalities. And subsequently, those ones who are from disadvantaged communities cannot access these resources because they just do not have it. And so they are cut out and they lag behind their education. So it is a reality from what we have learned from those two students from school.
It is a sad reality that many organizations have been reflecting on, to say that if you continue with this, what then about those without those resources? But online learning on its own, Prof, how effective is it?
I think in an ideal circumstance, in ideal situations where everyone has equal opportunities to these resources, it is very functional, it is very productive, it is very useful, because students then, in the situation, for example, where we have COVID-19, they can adhere to all of these regulations that are in place. However, I need to say, for many students, it will be a new experience, because school is such a regulated environment, it's such a programmed environment, and subsequently, these young people are removed from their peers that they rely so much on. They are removed from their teacher, and all they have to do is align themselves with the voices, and there's no touch, there's no real communication, there's no human interaction. So it requires a lot of adaptation, a real mind shift to learn within a space like that.
Yeah, and
I don't think it is the best.
I think that's
at the moment.
That's exactly what one of my guests, SKYPE Prof, was basically saying, that this online learning, it really is not for him. But now, Prof, moving along, kids are bored. I think that's what SKYPE Prof also said, that, listen, you literally run out of ideas of what to do during the day. How do we as parents help them maintain that learning momentum, perhaps, and also ensure that as much as they have an hour and 30 minutes of their online learning, but we still ensure that they do learn beyond the specified times for their online learning? How do we do it as parents? How do we play that part?
I think that is absolutely critical, that when we were under normal circumstances, that young people lived a life of routine and program. And so they would be in school and they would have timetables, and at certain times they would do certain subjects. And it's very important that we maintain a routine at home. We maintain a program at home to say at a certain time, young people will be active with the online system, at another time. And it must be a set time, and it must be part of a program. They must engage with their schoolwork through self-studying, and then there must be a time where there's a bit of leisure. But it must be a program, and it must be regulated, and it must be monitored by parents, because children learn through programs and in regulated environments.
Yeah, and the fact that parents have to be familiar with the schoolwork, how important is it? Because I would want to imagine that I'll not be able to help my child with his schoolwork if it's something that I'm not familiar with, something that I've never seen in my life.
Yeah, I can just imagine a subject like mathematics, and we have young people in rural areas that live with their gogos who are supporting them. So that is extremely challenging. And this is where e-learning perhaps becomes most ideal, or support forms with teachers, not necessarily through e-learning platforms, but through other social media platforms, through other telephone device platforms where they can contact their teachers. Most of the time, our parents can only ensure that these young people are sitting down and engaging with the schoolwork. Many of them cannot support these children when they have difficulties. When it's at a younger age, perhaps yes, but as they grow older and the subject becomes more complex, it is much more challenging to support these young people. And so this is where other forms of support needs to come in. Peer support is exceptionally important. If there are WhatsApp groups where young people can support one another, if there's an older sibling that's familiar with this work, I think all other avenues should be considered where parents cannot assist with the content, but they can create an enabling environment. I need to say this as well, Palisa, that often when we speak about e-learning, we talk about a learner or a child, but you will find that in that household, there might be 6 children. And so parents will have to regulate the environment for 6 children. That's very demanding, right? And they might not even familiar with the diverse context and learning content of these learning environments. So it is very challenging for parents.
All right, Prof, we'll leave it at this for today, but we hope to speak to you tomorrow post the much anticipated media briefing by the Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga tomorrow. So we'll speak to you tomorrow to talk about how time that's been lost due to the lockdown can be able to be recovered. But thank you so much for coming through. Well, there you have it. That's Professor Anthony Brown. He's Associate Professor in Inclusive Education at the Department of Educational Psychology, Faculty of Education at the University of Johannesburg, talking to us about online learning and its